Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Kopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Shisham Madhus Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you. Sixth Canto, Prescribed Duties for Mankind. Chapter 7, Indra offends Brihaspati, text 31. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Tasmat Pitrinam Artanam Artim Parabhavam Tapasapanayams Tata Sandesham Kartum Arhasi. What's another verse that has this Kartum Arhasi? Seems like there's a famous verse. Huh? Kartum Arhasi. Anyways, it seems like there's, I'm thinking of some famous verses, Kartum Arhasi. Anyways. Okay. What is it? Shochitamart. But not Kartamarasi? Okay. Anyways. Okay. Tasmat Pritrinam what is it? Tasmat Pritrinam Artanam Artim Parabhavam Tapasapanayam Stata Sandesham Kartamarhasi Tasmat Pritrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasapanayam Stata Sandesham Kartamarhasi Tasmat Pritrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasapanayam Stata Sandesham Kartamarhasi Tasmat Pritrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasapanayam Stata Sandesham Kartamarhasi Tasmat Pritrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasapanayam Stata Sandesham Kartamarhasi Tasmat Pritrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasapanayam Stata Sandesham Kartamarhasi Tasmat Pritrinam Artanam Artim Paraparabhavam Tapasapanayam Stata Sandesham Kartamarhasi. Okay, word Tasmat. Therefore, Pritrinam of the parents, Artanam, who are in distress, Artim, the grief, Paraparabhavam, being defeated by the enemies, Tapasa, by the strength of your austerities, Apanayan, taking away, Tata, O dear son, Sandesham, our desire, Kartamarhasi, you deserve to execute. Translation, commentary based on grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Dear son, we have been defeated by our enemies, and therefore we are very much aggrieved. Please mercifully fulfill our desires by relieving our distress through the strength of your austerities. Please fulfill our prayers. Text 32. Vrinima hetvaparayam brahmishtam brahmanam guram yatan jasavi jeshyama sapatnams tavatejasa. Since you are completely aware of the Supreme Brahman, you are a perfect Brahman, and therefore you are the spiritual master of all orders of life. We accept you as our spiritual master and director, so that by the power of your austerity we may easily defeat the enemies who have conquered us. Purport. One must approach a particular type of guru to execute a particular type of duty. Therefore, although Vishwarup was inferior to the demigods accepted him as their guru to conquer the demons. Okay, text 33. Nagarhayanti arteshu Yavishthangri abhivadanam chandobhyo bhyonyatana brahman vayo jaishtasya karanam. The demigods continued, do not fear criticism for being younger than us. Such etiquette does not apply in regard to Vedic mantras. Except in relationship to Vedic mantras, seniority is determined by age. But one may offer respectful obeisances even to a younger person who is advanced in chanting Vedic mantras. Therefore, although you are a junior in relationship to us, you may become our priest without hesitation. Purport. It is said, Vridha tvam vayasavina. One may be senior without being advanced in age. Even if one is not old, one gains seniority if he is senior in knowledge. Vishrup was junior in relationship to the demigods because he was their nephew, but the demigods wanted to accept him as their priest, and therefore he would have to accept obeisances from them. The demigods explained that this should not be a cause for hesitation. He should become their priest because he was advanced in Vedic knowledge. Similarly, Chanaka Pandit advises, Ni chad up utamam jnanam. One may accept education from a member of a lower social order. The Brahmins, the members of the most elevated Varna, are teachers, but a person in a lower family, such as a family of Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or even Śūdras, may be accepted as a teacher if he has knowledge. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved of this when he expressed this opinion before Ramananda Roy in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, Madhya 8:128. Kiba vipra kiba sannyāsī śūdra kena noy ye Krishna tattvaveta se guru hoy. It does not matter whether one is a Brahmin, śūdra, gṛhastha, or sannyāsī. These are all material designations. A spiritually advanced person has nothing to do with such designations. Therefore, if one is advanced in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his position in human society, he may become a spiritual master. Om Ganati Vadandasya Gananjala Shlaka Chakshuvanmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karivachalam Bhangam Nanga Tegiram Yakipatamaham Vande Shri Gurundiritanam Vancha Kapdribishta Kripa Sindhaveva Chapaditanam Bhavani Vaishnavi Vyuramana Maha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Vedigadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, translations again. Dear son, we have been defeated by our enemies, and therefore we are very much aggrieved. Please mercifully fulfill our desires by relieving our distress through the strength of your austerities. Please fulfill our prayers. Since you are completely aware of the Supreme Brahman, you are a perfect Brahman, and therefore you are the spiritual master of all orders of life. We accept you as our spiritual master and director, so that by the power of your austerity we may easily defeat the enemies who have conquered us. The demigods continue, do not fear criticism for being younger than us. Such etiquette does not apply in regard to Vedic mantras. Except in relationship to Vedic mantras, seniority is determined by age. But one must offer respectful obeisances even to a younger person who is advanced in chanting Vedic mantras. Therefore, although you are junior in relationship to us, you may become our priest without hesitation. The demigods need a priest, so they're approaching Vishwarupa Prabhu. And they're telling him that that you shouldn't fear criticism for being younger than us because you're qualified. You're qualified with knowledge of the Vedic mantras, and you're qualified to be our priest. So no need to feel hesitation for accepting that role as our priest. And you should accept it. You should accept that role. Is that fan on? Can you turn the fan on? Is it? Okay. All right. It's better. So it's not that, just like in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he accepted the renounced sort of life. He became a renounced traveling mendicant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, had come again 500 years ago, or a little more than 500 years ago. So he accepted the renounced sort of life, traveling mendicant, at a young age of 24, right? 24 years old. And when he was traveling throughout India, one particular point he went to a place, Jagannath Puri. And in Jagannath Puri, there was one very senior person in age and education, and he was a leader of that particular area. And actually all over India he was famous, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, some classes ago we discussed this pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, although he's very senior and advanced in so many ways, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he was younger to them, still he offered him the proper respect that one would offer a sannyāsī or someone in the renounced order. It's not that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was thinking, well, he doesn't deserve my respect because I'm senior to him. He should be respecting me. But he offered him proper respect, although much younger than him. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, there was an interesting relationship with him and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he was thinking that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so young, handsome and young, and how will he maintain his renunciation? Means, as a renounced mendicant traveling, there was no association, no question of association with the opposite sex or with anything like that. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was thinking, well, how is this person going to maintain? How is this person going to maintain this? This is dangerous. So he had this idea, okay, I'm going to teach him Vedanta. I'm going to educate him in the principles of Vedanta, and then in this way he can maintain his sannyas. And he tried to do that for about 7 days. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's a very wonderful painting, Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust painting, devotees painted. And it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just kind of listening, listening, and then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is just there, teaching him. And it's a very wonderful painting. There's so many wonderful paintings that devotees have done. But then at one particular point, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, I have been trying to teach you here for 7 days, and you haven't asked any questions. Are you understanding this? And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I'm understanding it, but you're clouding the whole. You're just as a cloud covers the sun, the ability for the sun to come through. You're clouding it. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes through his whole explanation of philosophy according to Bhakti Vedanta, the conclusion being devotion to Krishna, which we won't get into now. But yeah, he was afraid, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu maintaining his sannyas. And sometimes we see that when somebody wants to renounce the world or renounce what most people or a lot of people don't renounce in early ages, sometimes when people want to do that, they have other people coming to them, other devotees and other people saying, are you sure you want to do this? Which, it's a good question, because, you don't want to commit a mistake. But sometimes, so you could say it's normal for people to be a little concerned or worried. But if somebody is, you could say, at a particular stage, even in the early life, and they accept that whatever position it may be, as a priest or so on, then yeah, they should be giving that proper respect. And this is what's being mentioned here, one thing that's being mentioned here. Hey, so, can you close that door, please? So Chanakya Pandit, similarly, he says that one may accept education from a member of the lower social order. So these particular orders, you have the Chaturvana Mayashrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that these orders, Chaturvana Mayashrishtam, these have been created by me. Chaturvanam, the four orders, the Brahmins, the teachers, priests, educators of society, the Kshatriyas, the defenders, protectors, the Vaishyas, those protecting animals, cows, and producing food and so on, and the Śūdras who are helping the other orders. So these particular orders have been created by Krishna, along with these other orders, the brahmachari, the student life, the gṛhastha life, the householder life, vanaprastha, retired life, and sannyāsī, renounced order of life. So these have all been created by Krishna. But it's not that we should be identifying with that. I am a Brahmin, brahmachari, I am a whatever. I am a Kshatriya householder, whatever we shouldn't be identifying with that. Because as Srila Prabhupada mentions here, he says that these are all material designations. So they're temporary designations. So the soul is not a Śūdra or a Brahmin or a Vaishya or Kshatriya or a householder or sannyāsī. The soul is eternal servant of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in other words, this identifying is also within the realm of the bodily concept of life. We shouldn't identify with these orders also. Now, just because we don't identify with them doesn't mean we don't follow the duties of them. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in the role of a sannyāsī, as a renounced mendicant traveler, right, monk. He was in the role of a sannyāsī, but he wasn't identifying it in the sense that he's thinking, oh yes, I'm a sannyāsī, Brahmin or something. He's thinking I'm Dasa, Anadasa. I'm a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. So that's an important thing to do, because a lot of the times if we get into misidentifying with the body and the mind, then we get into creating we get into trouble. Trouble means what? As we were just some classes ago, we were explaining that if we remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, difficult things become easy, and without remembering Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, easy things become, how's it now? Difficult things become, or easy things become difficult. So in other words, if we remember Lord Chaitanya, the difficult things become easy. That's the main point. And we were discussing what may be difficult in Krishna consciousness. Okay, following the 4 regulative principles, chanting 16 rounds, talking nonsense, whatever, so many things, right? What is that? Oh yeah? So these things, not talking prajalpa. That's to not talk prajalpa. Not talk nonsense. So these are sometimes seen as difficult things to do. Now, this idea of talking nonsense, or that which is useless, we were discussing that the worst of prajalpa, the worst of nonsense talk, is sadhu ninda, or criticizing devotees. That's the worst. All the other stuff is dangerous too, but that's the worst. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of our teachers, he mentions this in his book, Madhurya Kadambini, which is a short book, but very powerful. Short, powerful book. Just like the Nectar of Instruction and many other books. So I just like to read a little bit, some paragraphs, not very much, from this particular book. And he's describing this sadhu ninda, aparad. So it's actually very enlightening, because we live in a society of devotees. So we might often, it comes up in talks, how are we supposed to deal with this? Well, the most easy way to deal with this is just don't do it. Now they say, how do I deal with sadhu ninda? How do I deal with, what do I do when I offend Vaishnavas? Well, best thing is just don't do it. Right? It's like, I feel really terrible after drinking 2 bottles of vodka. What should I do? Well, best is you just don't do it. So anyways, but anyways, it does describe this phenomenon, what to do. So we'll read. Sadhuninda, or criticism of Vaishnavas, is the first of the 10 offenses against the holy name. So if we commit offenses towards the holy name, we shouldn't expect the real results of the holy name, or we shouldn't expect to really get the full experience of the holy name. Ninda also implies animosity, malice, and such. So in other words, we feel animosity, we feel malice towards Vaishnavas. This is also sadhu ninda. So I'm not speaking, well, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? That's also. If by chance this offense occurs, the person should do what? Any guesses? Repent. Should repent. And then he says, quoting, "Oh, I am such a low-class person. I have made an offense to a saintly person." End quote. A person burned by fire seeks relief in fire. Now, what do you think about that? What do you think that means, Saul? This is a bit of a trick.
You're already in the fire, you get used to it, so you seek it more. When you get out, then that's when you feel the heat.
I don't know if you could ever get used to fire, though. Fire of purification? Okay, yeah. Fight fire with fire? Well, this is just, anyways, I'm not trying to just ask trick questions here or something, but anyways, it says here, a person burned by fire seeks relief in fire. So what does that mean? It means, according to Ayurveda, the health, wisdom text of India, one treats burns with ointments that cause heat. So, by this logic, he should nullify his offense by lamenting, falling at the feet of the Vaishnava and satisfying by offering him obeisances, praises, and respects. If the Vaishnava is still unsatisfied, the person should render favorable services to him according to his desires for many days. Sometimes the offense is so grievous that the Vaishnava's anger does not die. So he's saying that, okay, we commit offenses towards other devotees. We should repent. I'm such a low-class person, I've done this. And we should fall at that person's feet and ask for forgiveness and try to offer services to that person. Praises and respects. So you can see that this is very humbling. oh geez, I gotta do this. This is like, it's very humbling. But this is what he's saying the remedy is. And interesting, it says that the Vaishnava is still not unsatisfied. It said that the offense may be so grievous that the anger does not die. So in other words, he's saying that we shouldn't just think that Vaishnavas are like robots or something, machines. They don't have any feelings. They do have feelings, and one of them is anger and other things. So sometimes that anger does not die so quick. That's what he's saying, and he's mentioned this as an authentic, as reality. Not that we go to Vaishnava and say, "Oh, please forgive me." But what if the person's still angry? Say, "Oh, well, you're just being mundane and you're not forgiving me." Well, anyways, he's saying, yeah, this may happen. This is third nectar shower, the beginning. In extreme remorse, the offender, thinking himself most unfortunate and bound for millions of years in hell for his offense, should give up everything and take full shelter of constant chanting. In time, the divine power of the Hare Krishna mantra will certainly deliver that person from his offense. One should not justify himself, however, by arguing. The Padma Purana declares, Nama Parada Yuktanam. The holy name alone is sufficient to deliver an offender. So I'll take shelter of this supreme means of purification. So he's saying that, okay, if one commits an offense, they shouldn't just think, okay, well, I went to that devotee, they're not really forgiving me, they're still angry, so now I'm just going to take shelter of the holy name. Because Krishna is so merciful. So I don't need to bother pacifying that devotee. Krishna's merciful. I'm just going to take shelter of Krishna. He's saying we shouldn't do that. What is the need of humbling myself by offering repeated respects and service to the Vaishnava I've offended? This type of mentality makes one guilty of further offenses. Nor should one think that the offense of sadhu ninda discriminates between types of Vaishnavas. So he's saying that it doesn't matter what types of Vaishnavas, what types of devotees. It still acts. It does not refer only to one who is fully qualified with the virtues mentioned in Shastra. So there's virtues, kripa, alura, krita, drohas. O Uddhava, a saintly person is merciful and never injures others. Even if others are aggressive, he is tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. His strength and meaning in life comes from the truth itself. He is free from all envy and jealousy, and his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. Thus he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of all others. So this is describing a qualified person, extremely. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that we shouldn't think that Vaishnava Aparat only refers to such pure devotees or such advanced persons. And then he goes on, a person cannot minimize his offense by pointing out some defect in the devotee. So he would say, hey, I offended that person, but he's got a defect. I could do that. In other words, he's not so advanced, so I could offend them. He's saying we shouldn't do that. Because the Padma Purana says, even a person of bad character, devoid of proper behavior, a cheater, devoid of samskaras, ritualistic purification rites, and full of worldly desires, if he surrenders to the Lord, he must be considered a sadhu. So in other words, there might be a sadhu, a saintly person who doesn't have good behavior. But still, Vishnu Chakravarti, don't offend him, because it acts. What to speak of a pure Vaishnava? Sometimes one commits a serious offense to a Mahabhagavat, but a great pure devotee, but does not become angry because of his exalted nature. Still, the offender should fall at that devotee's feet and seek ways of pleasing him to purify himself. Though the Vaishnava may forgive offenses, the dust of his feet does not tolerate offenses and delivers the fruits of the offense to the guilty person. And the Bhagavatam says, 4.4.13, those who envy exalted saints are certainly diminished by the dust of their lotus feet. Means that the devotee may not take offense, but it the reaction's still there. One cannot, one more paragraph. One cannot apply conventional rules, however, to the powerful, spontaneous, most elevated Mahabhagavats who may sometimes bestow fathomless mercy even on the most undeserving or offensive. For instance, though Maharaj Rahugana made Jad Bharat carry his palanquin, and the king let loose a torrent of harsh words on him, still Jad Bharat bestowed his mercy. In a similar way, Chediraj Uparichara Vasu, you know this person? Chediraj. Uparichara Vasu showed mercy to the atheist, heretical daityas who had come to do him violence. Anybody know this Chediraj? There's something about him. In the same way, Sri Nityananda showed mercy even to the most sinful Madai who had injured the Lord's forehead, causing blood to flow. One should consider the third aparad, or Guru Vagya, or disrespect to Guru, in the same way as the first aparad. So sometimes these most merciful devotees, even if the person's an offender, still they. So this special mercy. So this Chediraj, Uparichara Vasu, so this is from the Vishnu Dhammavatara Purana, says that he was cursed to go to Patala Loka. So these lower, planets. But even there he continued to do his worship of Krishna. At that time the Daityas attacked him. But by his power, their weapons were unable to hurt him. Then they began preaching atheism. So they tried to attack him with weapons. Then they started preaching atheism, thinking that they could harm him in that way. Seeing their determination to harm him, Vasu gave them mercy and converted them to devotees. So that's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation. Because the tendency in the material world is to be in the bodily concept of life, which also means considering oneself brāhmaṇa, śūdra, gṛhastha, sannyāsī, or whatever material designation. And therefore, one may consider themselves superior to others. And therefore, there may be so many offenses committed on that basis of being in the bodily concept of life. So it's something we have to guard against. And again, the best thing is to not be in the bodily concept of life and not be misidentifying with all of these designations, and just be identified as a servant of Krishna, and always follow Lord Chaitanya's particular instruction, Trinadapi Sunecha, not to be as humble as a blade of grass that's taller as a tree, to try for that, and to offer all respects to others and expect no respect in return. And this way, one doesn't have to ask, what do I do if I commit Vaishnava aparad? Well, you just don't. That's the best. Just don't commit it. Because once, twice, 3 times it can be excused, but otherwise it's not really excused. So, okay, does anybody have any question or comment?
An answer to your question.
Yes.
What's the verse with Karta Meharasi?
Yeah.
You may be thinking of the last verse of the 16th chapter. It's very close. Tasmat shastra bhamanam te karya karya vibhastitao gyatma shastra badhanoktam karma kartum iharhasi.
Oh, iharhasi.
Yeah.
I might be thinking about that. Yeah.
And then one just point of information. You mentioned Sanatana and Rupa, I think. I discovered this recently, and I was surprised that Rupa and Sanatana are both younger than Lord Chaitanya by a couple of years. One was born in, the older, Sanatana was born in 1488, and Rupa was born in 1489. Interesting, because you never thought of that.
Any online contribution?
Hare Krishna, I have a question.
Okay.
So this lesson that we should not give offense.
How?
never quite-
I just want to ask you a question. One second. How often do you watch these classes?
Almost every day.
Okay.
I'm always here,
Good.
just being quiet.
Maitreya? Just, is this Maitreya speak?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Justin.
No, this is Justin,
Justin.
from Las Vegas.
From Las Vegas. Okay. Yes. Please ask, Justin.
Yeah, so these instructions never quite reach my heart. Is there a difference between giving offense and, understanding people not acting correctly? Like we have certain rules we're supposed to follow. What's the difference there? Some people are trying, but they're not doing quite correct. Is that an offense to say they're making a mistake?
Well, yeah, like Dravida Prabhu said just now, it's how you say it. I mean, one thing I was just thinking is, if you call a thief, it's like, hey, call a thief. Just like, unfortunately, we had a break-in here at the temple the other night at like midnight. Very strange. You have to be a very unfortunate person to break into a church or a temple. I mean, even these criminals in prison, they're like, okay, we'll break into this place, we'll break into that place, but we're not going to break into a church or a temple. That's just like, off the list. It's just, you don't even go there. So you have to be a very unfortunate person to do that. And also not so, I mean, maybe some Hindu temples or some temples, they would have done better, but in terms of getting something. But here, I mean, we empty out that donation buck once a week for everybody's information, and there's not much in there, maybe $200 or something at the most. And then, anyways, they broke in the gift shop, so they didn't get much besides bad karma. But if we were to call that person a thief, it's true. They're a thief. We're calling a thief a thief. It's true. So nothing wrong with that. But we have to just, when we're dealing with devotees, especially sadhu, saintly persons, we have to be careful because as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was saying, he was saying, this making offenses towards the devotees doesn't just mean to those who are advanced devotees, but it means to others. And he mentioned different bad qualities. So in other words, we should see those devotees, whoever they are, advanced, whatever particular platform they're on, we should see them as devotees and treat them as devotees with respect and so on. Now, of course, if somebody is in a management position, may you never have to do that. If one is in a manager position within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, a very difficult position, but if they happen to be in that position, it's much needed also, by the way, then they are generally the ones that have to be correcting people and instituting whatever law and order and all of these things. But generally, devotees should be a little detached. They should just kind of step back, let the managers take care of the dirty work, let the managers take care of it, and they should just step back. And they should also not fester. There shouldn't be all this festering of focusing on people's bad qualities, because the offense and is just not necessary. So we bring it to authority. Now someone may say, well, what if my authority is defective and not really following? Well, in that particular case, there may be imaginative faults. Sometimes that happens. People imagine that leaders have faults, like it's a hallucination. But sometimes there actually are faults in the leaders. Now, there's big faults and there's small faults. Okay, if there's small faults, then it's just like Prabhupada would say, it's like the moon, it's giving out light, it's giving off right, sunlight, illuminating. It's making all the vegetables tasty. Prabhupada says, right? The moonlight does that. You know that? Makes the vegetables more succulent. So, in other words, it's doing its service. The moon is doing their service, although there's some spots. Some traditions, they say rabbit, right, on the moon. Some say, what else? I don't know, deer or whatever. So different. There's spots there. It's not like just, pure illumination, but still giving out light. So if there's small faults, then we should see it like that. And we should also be introspective. Okay, they have small faults, but what about me? Do I not have faults? Now, if they're big faults that are really like causing people harm and trouble, then then we could report as followers or as disciples or as students. We could report to another authority and say, hey, I don't have the power to really get involved in this person's life, but he's doing this, or she's doing this. So can you please, maybe we could do something about the situation. It's not right. But much of the faults, or some of the faults, true or imaginative, let's just focus on the true ones, they're not of the nature of that they need to be brought up to other authorities and rectified. Maybe they just need to be tolerated. So it really depends case by case. What do you think about that, Justin?
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, I think, like you said, the importance is to tolerate even when there's some mistake and appreciate their efforts.
Yeah, because some people I know they've complained about temple presidents. It's a common, but common complaint, right? The temple. But the thing is, there has been temple presidents, right? Who, whatever, But sometimes they complain, and they pretty much just remove the person, the temple president. But then there's no temple president. And then you got devotees who know how to do deity worship, who know how to cook, who know how to do book distribution, who know how to, whatever, to write and do all these different things. They know how to clean, but they don't know. They don't exactly know how to manage things, or you could say they don't know how to manage things. And then there's just no one managing, and then that becomes a problem.
We gotta have somebody to appoint Vena. You remember?
Yeah, they were thinking that, like, what was it, Maharaj Anga, right? Maharaj Anga was a great king, a great manager, great devotee, right? He was doing everything well, but he had this son, Vena. And Vena was just like a big-time rascal, just really bad guy. Vino. He was a really bad guy. It said that he would be playing with children, like friends, when he was a kid, and he said he would just like kill them, and play. But anyways, this person was so bad, the son, Maharaj Anga said, all right, I'm leaving. And he said in the dead of night, he just left his home. And he went out to the forest. He accepted sannyas. Just went out to the forest. And then the next person in line was Vena. So he became the king. But he was stopping all fire sacrifices, all deity worship, just stopping everything. He was persecuting the Brahmins, the priests. And he was really just a real evil leader. And then at one point he said, I'm God, and everybody should worship me. Then the Brahmins that were still around, they said, okay, well, we can't tolerate this. So it said that they chanted some mantras, and with high-pitched mantras, and then they were chanting, and then it said Vena was killed on this basis. That's how the Brahmins would used to, not often, but after that, what happened was just a huge upsurge a mess. You know, just a bunch of violence and just, there was no leader, so people just, you know, came out, started trouble. So then Prithu Maharaj came, and then he rectified things. So, of course, if a leader's really out of line, then yes, they should be removed. But the fact is, there has to be some leadership management. And a lot of the cases, even though there are some defects, they are doing the service that others would have a very difficult time doing, or they just couldn't do. So yeah, we should try to appreciate it, and ultimately we should just try to do the right thing, do the most important thing. Means they're not stopping us from going out and chanting on the streets, right? They can't stop us to do that. They can't stop us from distributing Prabhupada's books. They can't stop us from trying to spread Krishna consciousness. They can't do all these things. So the most important thing is just to do that and not focus so much. Try to stay out of all the, they say, stay out of the politics, right? And just as much as possible. What do you think, Justin?
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Any last? All right. Okay, so tomorrow is Saturday, and Gṛhastha Prabhu will give. It will be on 6? Yeah, 36. And then Dravida Prabhu will give Sunday morning and Sunday night. So, and some of the devotees are going up to Los Angeles today, and some of them tomorrow for this Brahmachari Mela. It's just devoted. Deva Retta Prabhu's organizing some gathering to try to encourage the Brahmacharis. So it's nice. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.